Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv, Wolok, my partner in crime, Vasili Gianarakos. Vasili, welcome back for another episode, buddy. How you doing?
Doing good, buddy. Start of the week here on Monday, and Flyers are 2-0 going into a couple games this week. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there with the games against Florida and Tampa. But I mean, overall, I think as fans, who would have thought they'd be 2-0 to start off?
Unbeaten.
Yeah, over the offseason, there weren't many predicting that. So I'm as good as can be with that news. How about you, buddy?
Doing well, man. Thanks for asking. And let's just get into our guest, because she's not a guest of our site. She's not a guest of the team. If you guys don't follow her for AHL coverage, you're missing out. She also does her own podcast. She does a bunch. You've been doing so much content for me. I've lost track how much content you've done for this site and just in general, how many podcasts you have at this point.
Killing it.
Yeah, but welcome back to the show, Sam Wismer. What's going on?
Thank you. Yariv Wolok.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for joining. But this is a pretty, I think Vasili brought it up. He's like, oh, we should have Sam on. I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. And now I think it kind of fell on the perfect time because both teams played this week, and actually not just one of the teams, the Flyers and the Phantoms. The Phantoms ended up 1-1, but that's not too bad considering last season. And the Flyers start off 2-0. So I think we have a lot of good stuff to talk about. Let's get in the first piece of news. We were talking about it a little bit before we started recording here. Belpedio and McEwen both called up at the same time. And I'll note to this now, we can touch on this as well. Rasmus Ristolainen is also put on the IR, a player we didn't have too much detail about, but obviously his injury will now extend beyond definitely this road trip. So let's get right off the bat. And I'm going to go to you first, Sam, because you've been watching the Phantoms lately. Belpedio, McEwen, both of them doing very well for the team, both of them getting called up for this trip. Yeah, tell me about, your reaction to this move.
Well, having Big Mac down there was definitely a treat. Anytime any of these guys, obviously the Flyers Twitter fan base has a complete massive breakdown of their brains, and we're freaking out over Zach being put on waivers and then being put down there. But he did really well. If he is brought down again, he'll always be a big part of the team. He was a big part of the team for the preseason games that he was in, and then these two regular season games. When I talked to Lappy last week in the press conference, he was just like, some of the times when these guys get sent down, their attitudes they're grumpy, they're mad. But he didn't have that. His attitude, he was positive. He's like, I told him about a few of the mistakes he made when he was on the bench, and he turned around and said, yes, coach, absolutely not a problem. Like, he wasn't entitled. So I think that played key into him being brought back up basically on merit. And then
well, he did produce. We should make it very clear. I think did he have like 3 points or something like that?
2 goals and an assist in games. And then
not nothing.
Louis Belpedio, he was signed over the summer, and he's made such a presence so far. He's just such a physical player, and he plays a big part in the leadership team down there, along with Cal O'Reilly and Garrett Wilson.
Interesting, because he's only 26, and I think a lot of people would think like, and again, if you guys listen to this podcast, 26 is not old. So that means there's a chance that maybe he's even gotten better than he's ever been.
Yeah,
it's absolutely possible. Right? Doesn't mean he's here to stay, but it means that maybe he's a guy who the Flyers can rely on, to come up and play some offensive role. Because from what I can tell, he's an offensive defenseman. I haven't seen him play too much outside of the preseason and whatnot, but offensive defenseman, moves the puck well, doesn't have the biggest size. I think he's like 5'11", 190 or something like that.
He's not a big guy at all.
Right. So it's kind of like a poor man's Tony DeAngelo in a lot of ways, right? Right-handed defenseman, very similar size, similar skill set, not going to be able to do the same thing. Maybe he does that at the AHL level for the Phantoms to some degree. But yeah, I think it's really interesting.
And he's not afraid. I'm sorry. He's not afraid to get into those scrums that happen, because there was a scrum that happened yesterday. Zayd Wisdom decided to try and find out who Kale Kessie was off the Hershey Bears. Our captain Cal, basically skated up to him and was like, dude, you don't want that smoke, just go take the penalty.
Fair
but
enough.
I mean, Belpedio was in that scrum.
You gotta like the enthusiasm from Wisdom, though. He's still getting in there. But just for McEwen and Belpedio, just some quick notes. I think Sam did a great job there, kind of listing it out. And I mean, she would know better than us. She's watching all these games. I would say for McEwen, I was kind of surprised that he didn't make it over Hodgson, to be honest. I thought he had a way better camp, looked way more noticeable. So I don't think it's much of a surprise that you get him back up, especially as, you know, the injury bug has seemed to hit again here. And then just for Belpedio, he'll likely be the 7th, but I mean, I don't think that's a bad person to have just in case there's any sort of injury in the first game against Tampa. I watched him in the preseason. I haven't seen him play really before that, to be honest with you guys, but I like the way he moved the puck. He was quick with it, and he didn't take a lot of time, I noticed, in terms of his decision making. So, I mean, if you're going to play at the NHL level, that's what you have to be, right? Reactionary, quick with your decisions. So that's a good thing to see, and he might open himself up to be like that number 7 depth option, or one of the many potential depth options on defense if there's injuries. So.
He got called up over Connectny.
Yeah, which is, I think that's interesting to note, because I would have probably thought that it would be Connectny over him in that situation, right?
Just to note, Connectny didn't play yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Scratched.
I noticed that, but he was playing the game before that. Is he injured? I don't think he was injured. I think there's that veteran rule. Not that they have actually a pretty young team, though. I don't know. Maybe they just try. So they have a lot of names actually down there. You look at the Phantoms lineup. There's a lot of guys who need to get minutes. At that tier, the Flyers are actually really kind of if Ryan Ellis, I'll say this over and over again. If Ryan Ellis is healthy, if you look at this team, they have arguably the best defense in the NHL. No, like 100%. If you look at the pairings, in
terms of depth,
okay, but that's how you win championships. You don't win championships because you have one great player. If you can roll out 3 pairings that are no worse than a second pairing in the NHL, like that is very dangerous to play against. Like people were talking about Tony DeAngelo being a bottom pairing defender. He's average. We'll get into it, but he's averaging 27 minutes a night right now.
Yeah. Well, arguably, if Ryan Ellis came back, I mean, he'll probably slide in next to Sanheim, and then having a third pair with Braun there and Zamula is not too shabby. So,
and that's just in the beginning. We still aren't even talking about York and
all those other options. Exactly.
I was just about to say about York. I texted a couple of my Phantoms friends who were fellow season ticket holders, and I was like, "Hey guys, I just want to let you know, Belpedio and McEwen were called up," and someone responded back with, "That's kind of a slap in Cam York's face." I'm like, "But is it really though? Because Cam York needs to cook."
Yeah. Well, they put him down there to play. They didn't put him down there to go for 2 games and be right back up, right? So
yeah,
I think that was the reason.
He also got outplayed by Belpedio. Right.
Exactly.
For sure.
Who is 5 years older than him.
And Cam's getting massive minutes right now. So
and also we are on and Sam, you said it yourself. There's no guarantee that Belpedio is even playing, right? And the message needs to be sent to Cam York. Like, I'll say one thing about Torts. I don't know if I've seen a single roster decision outside of the Hodgson thing I did not agree with. Like where I'm like, yep, that's how I saw it. Like, yep, that's how I saw it. The Hodgson thing too, and I'm going to make it very clear. I didn't see anything from him now that warranted that. But if I went off his resume, how he looked last season and what he brought to the table, I would have given him the nod over McEwen in the sheer fact that maybe he has it. I don't know. It's a little weird, but that one I can see. But to be honest with you, neither one of them.
They're very close. They're very close in skill sets.
And to me, neither one of them makes the team.
Yeah.
So I just want to make that
healthy. Yeah.
And the one thing we didn't. Let's talk about him right now because Ali Lishkill got the call up the other night, and let's bring. I said his name wrong. I'm sorry. Ulay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm old habits. But he played, and I kept hearing that he didn't play a lot of minutes. I found it very interesting that nobody pointed out the fact he played more than Jackson Cates and Nick Delorier.
Yeah, he played a good amount.
So yes, he didn't get a lot of minutes, but he still didn't get the least amount of minutes on the team. And he didn't have a great game. So I find that interesting because they didn't hesitate to play him, even though he didn't have a great game. At least not fully. I don't expect him to make the team either. I think if this team is healthy, Neither one of these guys make the team. McEwen, Lixell, or I'm sorry, my brain is blanking. Hodgson, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them make the NHL. So, I think
that's a fair point.
I think that's Torch's point.
You got to earn it, right? When you're this first call up, it's based on, okay, who's playing the best at this point, or who do we think is going to fit better on this line? I mean, just for Lixell and his debut, he wasn't very noticeable to me. Like, not too many standout shifts, but to be honest, first game in the NHL, usually a lot of players don't have the best performance. I'm sure there's nerves there. But the thing that you have to point out is there's no glaring mistakes. He played a safe game.
He did take that bad penalty though.
He took a penalty, but I mean, other than that, right? There's nothing.
Torch brought it up. That's all I have to say. So it matters to Torch.
Matters to Torch, but you're not seeing like a huge giveaway or turnover or anything like that. So I think that's all you can ask for, and then they probably hope that as the time goes along, he gets a little bit more comfortable. And shows a little bit more of what he was doing in the preseason, just in terms of like his positioning in the offensive zone to get open. Because I noticed in the preseason he was open a lot, and just using his speed because he's a speedy guy out there.
Yeah, Sam, you want to go ahead?
I do have to say, with these 2 wins, I have friends within the Carolina Hurricane fan base, and they were all texting me, Sam, your team's winning in this economy. I was like, shut up. Just like, let's just roll with it.
Don't talk about it. Don't jinx it. Well, what do you think about Lixell?
Again, I don't think he had that great of a game. I do think he needs more time in the A.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so used to now saying the A because of my podcast.
Fancy. You're allowed to use it. You're a pro now.
I'm trying. But yeah, no, I didn't notice that he played more than Delorier and Jackson Cates. I would think they called Jackson Cates up for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Get better camp.
But yeah, Ule needs more time.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No,
yeah, no, absolutely. You can tell he needs time. I think they know that. The advantage with somebody like him is that he's already been playing against men.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of these guys kind of like a lot of we saw it with like even like Sandine got called up. They just like in the
they can slide in a pinch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think because of the expectation to be a pro already is already laid out for them. I think that their behavior is just a little different, like in between practices, during practices. Like, I remember what I was like at that age. Like, I remember how young, I remember like even 5 years ago in my work environment, the way I behaved 5 years ago between the way I behave today in a work environment. There's a different maturity level. And that's why I was saying about Belpedio. It's what bothered me that people were like upset that York got upset that he's cut. It's like, okay, that is the normal response for
21-year-old
90 to 99% of people his age. If somebody doesn't respond that way and responds like Zach McEwen, it's very noticeable. That's why they talk about it. They go, oh my God, he can just sit there and eat shit and not be upset. It's like, yeah, it's super rare to be able to do that. So like, if you see a young guy behave that way, okay, yeah, it's pretty normal. I mean, if he doesn't respond well, that's a different story. Like if he doesn't do anything, like if Cam York regresses, right? Then you go, oh, the guy's got an attitude problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
And just even like talking about that, like, I'm in my 3rd season now, and just from my 1st season to now, I've grown so much, and I've had those experiences of where I've learned what to say and not to say.
Really imagine for a hockey player too. Obviously, just learning to become a pro, the more experiences you get, it's going to add on as well. And I think with Lixell, just the final point here, even though he's playing against men in the SHL, it's still a learning curve when you're jumping from the big ice to the small ice. So I think, like Sam was saying, like the AHL will help him there for sure. And just to jump off and kind of round out, I think some of the news here. Sure. We also forgot to mention out, I believe that Tippett is now on IR. Atkinson is day-to-day still. He's not making the trip. Not placed on IR, though, so that's a good sign. And then Risto, day-to-day, is on IR as well. I think one thing to note is it's not like long-term injured reserve. So IR, a player will have to stay for 7 days. So in 7 days from now, they can both be activated and play games. So I think that tells you that maybe it's not super long term, but they're just not going to be on the trip.
I think you can also retrospectively apply IR.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it doesn't even have to be like 7 days from the time that we publicly hear it. It's just,
it could be like, they were technically on it 3 days ago. Who knows?
I don't know all the benefits of managing the cap certain ways, but majority of these moves are
cap related.
Yeah. Because you can see, like, we don't even know when Atkinson's coming back. I mean, it's unfortunate to say, but it's a
question mark. We don't really know what his injury is either.
So like IR doesn't mean much to me. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying, is that it just doesn't reveal too much, unfortunately, in a bad way.
Well, I think for Tippett, it might be something concussion related, not to like.
No, yeah, I think so too.
Not to put 2 and 2 together, but I just think the way he collided, and then you could see like there was something off there, right? Where the concussion spotter probably pulled.
Well, didn't he go back onto the bench?
Exactly. And then I think the spotter probably pulled him, and then at that
I don't even know if it was a spotter. Maybe he just sat there and went, "Nope." Look,
don't feel it.
If I'm a player, dude, and I'm like, this is the very beginning of the season. If I have a concussion,
why?
And I don't. Well, if I don't take care, you should know at this point. Any athlete should know. Regardless of what you believe about being competitive, we saw the ramifications of that happen in football recently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about that. I don't know football that well, but you don't mess around with this stuff.
No,
you just don't. As an individual, you shouldn't. You should see. We have people here in the organization who have lost their careers because of this stuff.
Yeah, serious.
It's like you just don't like.
And it's good. It's good the NHL and a lot of players are taking it more seriously, because if you go back 10, 15 years ago, it was not the same case.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign of progress.
One more IR as well. Felix Sandstrom also comes off IR.
Yeah.
And Ersan gets loaned to the Phantoms, or sent to the Phantoms. He already had his game though, but that happened like 2 days ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's still a bunch of moves. This is what we were talking about in the beginning of the year, though, is all these people are married to the open night roster and freak out.
Yeah, look at
right now. Think about the level of freak out about Cam. It's like, oh my God, we're two games into the season. I'm not gonna. I don't like to name podcasts on here, but I like to listen to a lot of podcasts. But I heard complaining already about Kevin Hayes, and I'm like, oh my God.
Well.
2 games in.
Yeah, I know.
Well, when the Phantoms lost their game yesterday, there was so much complaining about Lappy, and Captain Jamie texted me and was like, Lappy's getting so much hate on Twitter. I was like, 1, Jamie, there's no hockey on. The Phantoms were the only thing on. So yeah, people are going to complain about something. And 2, it's game 2. People just need to shut.
And they also just won the game before that, so it's hockey. You're gonna lose the game every once in a while.
Except they don't take that win into consideration. They just think, oh well, they lost. It's Lappy's fault.
Well,
yeah, fair.
I'll say this, and this is more of a general statement. We have a responsibility. I am not a journalist. I've said it to people who listen to this. I'm not a journalist. I don't know what you guys consider yourself. I'm not a journalist. I don't want to be a journalist. I have no interest to be a journalist. Like, none at all. I'm not going after the news. I'm not going to give you the breaking news in the moment, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, I don't care. I'm commentator, right? Training to be general manager of the Flyers. Like, I joke around, but that's like literally my mindset. That's how I think, right? So that's what you're getting from me. And
that's the analysis that you're given, exactly.
But I think we have a responsibility as thought leaders to not behave the way that, this is going to piss you off, that Philadelphia media has historically done. And it's not just Philly media. I'm not going, actually, you know what? I'll take that back. Media. It's not an attack on Philadelphia media. I don't think it's specific to Philly. I don't have a specific person to attack or anything. Like, that is not what this is about. But you can see it. You see we had a whole episode about it, Vasili. The whole freak out over the first thing. I'm not picking on a specific writer, not saying one person did this, but we have, as a collective, everybody here freaks out. So I think our responsibility a little bit is to keep people more like, don't even be too happy, and we'll talk about that a little bit here. Like,
even keeled.
Just so our emotions don't freaking go up and down. Like Jason Martinez talks about it, about managing.
Well, you have to be able to address both sides of the coin, right? Like, when negatives happen, you have to be able to address the fact that certain things are happening on a negative sphere. When positives are happening, you have to be able to address that. Just because a good things happen doesn't mean it's thrown out the window. Just because bad things happen doesn't mean you throw out the window. Both together, right?
But we have to point out the fact that negativity sells.
Well, yeah. I mean, of
Much
course.
more than positivity. And there's a subconscious incentive or a constant pattern
You're
to go
drawn
there.
to it. You're drawn to it
I'm
more.
telling
Yeah.
you right now, this is my opinion. People are in denial about what is going on with the Flyers. In utter denial. I even saw, again, you listen to me and you listen to stuff that's coming out of Tortorella's mouth. And I say me because I've been doing this by myself in the beginning. I know you agree with me, Vasili, on this stuff. Like, you listen to what Tortorella just said about this not being a young man's game. He just said that in the press conference today. Did anybody notice that?
No.
How he straight up said this is a sloppy game today. All these young
Yeah.
guys in the league, they're not that good. Does that sound like this is a young man's game? Or no, it's a young man's game because of money. I brought it up over and over again. You have to play perfect in this league. And I will say what Tortorella is doing is fascinating, absolutely fascinating to me. I don't know how good this team is quite yet. I don't blame anybody for that. There's no denial that this man is locked in. Let's get
Oh,
into
yeah.
let's get
He's
into this next
dedicated.
topic. I'll ask this question. I'll go to you, Vasili, first. How are we doing so far? Flyers are undefeated, 2-0. Beat New Jersey, beat Vancouver. Go off of what I just said.
Sure.
What are you feeling?
First off, I mean 2-0, so you can't ask for much more for a start. I don't think. I mean, if you base off the predictions of like you're saying, media in general, probably most people don't think the Flyers start this way. I'm gonna look at it in this perspective. I mean, a 2-game sample size is not a lot. You can't judge much off it. They could lose the next 10 games. It doesn't mean they're going to be a playoff team. It doesn't mean they're going to be better than a top 10 or a bottom 10, NHL team, in my opinion. Anything can happen. What I do believe, though, is the 2 games has shown that this team has a lot of differences just in terms of their structural play on the ice as a 5-man unit. You can already see it everywhere in all 3 zones, right? Like the defensemen are way, way, way easier in terms of breaking out the puck out of their own end, which was a huge problem last season. And what does that stem from? It's structure, right? You have guys supporting, you have guys getting open in certain places where they weren't. Last season, they're not looking for that home run stretch pass to the blue line. They're looking for shorter passes, and then from that point, moving it up in different ways, which they weren't doing last season. In the neutral zone, they're supporting each other. On the back check, you have forwards coming back and helping the defensemen when other players are kind of carrying it down through into the middle of the ice. And what that does is allows defensemen to stand people up at the blue line, and you're not getting as many entries. So overall, just structurally, you see Tortorella and Bradshaw's system taking effect. That's only, I mean, they've only really been doing system work for a week and a half. So it's only going to get better as the players learn it, which is a good thing because, I mean, obviously, you hope for gradual improvement. But like I was saying, right, like small sample size, we don't know like what this team is yet, but there's certain signs that are encouraging on that level. And the other encouraging thing to me is just their resilience in general. And I wrote an article about this and had it out yesterday that was kind of all centered around this. And really, the resilience for me that's interesting is they didn't have any of it last season. First off, when one bad thing happened, it would unravel. I mean, you can tell Tortorella is focused on building a mindset of, the team being able to, have a bad thing happen to them. He said it all the time. We're going to make mistakes, but it's about how we learn from the mistakes and respond to them. And I mean, you can see the team embracing that there's certain mistakes happening on the ice, but they're not panicking after those mistakes. And they're saying, you know what? We know what our structure is. Let's revert to that as a baseline. And then from there, work back into our game and not lose ourselves on the ice. And that was happening last season a lot. So 2 points for me on that is the first game pretty much when they give up the second goal to New Jersey in the third period, they go down to cut a 3-goal lead to a 2-goal lead. Last season, they probably blow that game and lose it. This season, they did not do that. And they structurally stayed together and they kept being aggressive despite having the lead, which they also did not do a lot last season. They would just go back into a shell. I mean, in the modern day NHL, the more you push the forecheck, the more you have puck possession, the more you're going to be successful. And that's what they were aiming for. So that's a good sign that, when they get into those situations where they have a lead, they're going to keep trying to be aggressive, keep staying to their game because that's what got you there in the first place. And then the second point for resiliency there for me is, being down 2-0. You're playing a great game, controlling the play in the first period against Vancouver. Shots controlled as well, 15-4. That's the easiest point as a pro and as a player to say to yourself, okay, hey, we're playing this game, we're doing everything the right way, and we're still not winning, and that's where frustration sets in, and that's where you can lose yourself, lose your game, lose your structure. The Flyers are not to do that. They came out, had a good second period, tied the game up, stayed to their game, and even though there's a push from Vancouver in the third, they overcome and score that third goal and get the winner. So that's two different types of resiliency shown in the first two games. So that's basically my thoughts, that it's just a really good sign. And I mean, we don't know what they are, but they're different. It's not the same team. And that's my thoughts. What about you guys? I know that was very drawn out, but
Go ahead.
Well, Vasili. Yeah, no, I think that they definitely looked better, especially in that game with New Jersey. I mean, it's against Jersey, so I can't really say much. But like you said, it's a small sample size. It's only two games.
They went all out and added a bunch of players this offseason. They're supposed to be much better than us. I heard it. Everybody say it over and over again. We were supposed to get shellacked, I think. I heard a 5-1 potential. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead.
Sorry, Sam.
But yeah, no, I mean, they definitely are looking much more cohesive, if that makes any sense.
Definitely.
It's not so chaotic. There's a sound going around on TikTok right now, and it's basically like there's no chaos, and it's very unsettling. And that's how I felt watching the games. I was like, oh my God.
There was a limited amount of chaos.
Just a limited. It wasn't like last season where it was 60 minutes of pure chaos and you couldn't find who was where on the ice.
Yeah. Well, Vasili said they would stop the spiral, right? That's what Vasili was pointing to.
They're doing a lot better of a job of boxing out for defense wise. It feels like they want to play for the goalie now and not the goalie playing for them. So let's hope that continues, because a certain farm team needs to learn how to do that. Again, game 2, so I need to stop. TK has stood out for me. Not sure where TK's been hiding, but I like him getting under everybody's skin again and being annoying. This is the TK I've wanted back for 2 years now. But yeah, I mean, the resiliency with this group, I think just Torts is a breath of fresh air, and it's just so nice to see.
Without a doubt, he's been exceptional. He's been absolutely exceptional the entire time so far.
Yeah, I agree.
I have never been this impressed with
just the honesty
NHL,
too. Like he's so straight up with just all of his answers in terms of like, coaches in the past would say
he has a plan.
Yeah, but like
a real good one.
Even I think like coaches in the past say they'd ask about a certain player, and they'd give you some sort of bullshit answer, and just the rehearsed media answer. Okay, let's get through the question. Horrell will just say, I haven't seen him, so when I see him, I'll tell you. And like that's just a breath of fresh air for me personally.
Well, when I was at training camp and I was in one of the press conferences, I think it was either Gianna Hahn or Olivia Renier who asked a question about one of the players. I think it was Coots being on IR or being injured. And they're like, do you have any update? And he's like, look, like I just asked the medical staff, is this athlete ready to play? They say yes or no. He's like, okay, because what are you going to do as an athlete if the coach comes to you, be like, are you ready to play? Yeah, put me in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's a good point. He can't ask the player. The player's going to say yes.
All the time.
But he's doing what I don't think AV ever did, was go to the medical staff and be like, hey.
That's a really good point, Sam. I don't want to assume about what AV did. I think looking at what happened, maybe, you know what I mean? That's a pretty good guess. I think that's pretty smart hypothesis, but I don't know for sure. But we do know that there's some history there with Tortorella yelling at the medical staff. So again, I'm going to stay out of that conversation in general, but I don't know. He's rolling through those people too. That's my problem, is I have a very hard time not believing Torch right now, because his actions are aligning with stuff that like I would do. For instance, like even the way he was skating the practice. And I think a lot of people don't really understand still what that was for. I think they think that he was conditioning them in the beginning of the season. No, that was the trial. Yes, that was the mental stuff because they were already supposed to come in conditioned.
Yeah.
And if you weren't, you were supposed to fail in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Feel that and go to the minors and then work harder. That's the entire point. Right?
100%, yeah.
But do you want to say something, Vasili? Because I'm
I was
going
gonna
on
say,
a little bit of a rant here.
Yeah, sure. Well, what's your thoughts here? Even no worries. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. Well, so my thoughts overall is this is kind of what I've been saying on here from day one. I've been saying it. If you watch any of my player profile videos, I talk about this stuff all the time. The issue with the Flyers has not been talent. I don't care what publicly people are saying. I don't care how many credentials they have or what publication that they write for. That has not been the problem here at all. That's why when we had the talent, people were like, well, what is wrong? I don't understand. Because that wasn't the problem to begin with. It's obvious to me since Torts has been involved and over all of the terrible shit that has happened here that those things are being exposed. Like not forcing the highest level of conditioning to come into camp. The fact that wasn't established here is ridiculous. Maybe some stuff with medical on the inside. Don't know. There's clearly, if you look at the way they're playing today, they are missing so many good players, and they look better than they've ever looked last year at any point. It is completely believable to say that Ivan Provorov, or the past two games, has not just looked great, but he's looked the best he's ever looked. And that includes playing with Ryan Ellis. Like, I am looking very clearly at the players on this team. You're saying, where was TK? In the same place that everybody else is. Poorly coached, poorly run organization that did not allow the talent here to excel. And now people are totally understand being skeptical of it, as you should be. It's the very beginning of the season. You can always see a team do well in the beginning of the season and then burn out. 100%. Take it with a grain of salt. But look at the wins yourself. Every single player on this team is excelling.
But they're working. They're not quitting.
Lazinski looks awesome.
Hard.
Allison looks awesome. Cates looks awesome. And we'll talk more about Cates and Farabee. Farabee, after all that surgery, not even an issue, and I do want to talk about them specifically. Kevin Hayes looked pretty good. TK, lights out. There's not enough talent to beat both of these teams on talent alone with what we had. Not enough, and we were better than both teams. Easily. This is what I'm talking about. We don't have a team to win a championship. Fully healthy, we have a team that can compete for a playoff spot, 100%. Championship, no, we're missing pieces, right? I'm not going to lie to people about that. But you can compete against any team in the league. This is what I've been waiting for. That's why all these trade things, like people were talking about trading Sanheim. I was like, what are you guys talking about? We finally are playing like a team. Let's see what happens. We might get so much out of every single player here that you'll be able to throw together a package and get a much better player than you ever thought you could get. Because all of a sudden your assets look better. Lazinski looks awesome. Don't even lie. Everybody knows he looks better during the season than in preseason too.
That backhand pass to Frost on that goal,
he looks awesome.
Filthy.
You look at this team; they are producing.
My boy.
Again, this might fade away. I don't think this team is going to come out and beat every team.
No.
Struggle.
But we can't not acknowledge the positives, right? Like that's the thing.
That the core of the problem has always been the way the team plays, not the talent level. And the more I keep hearing Provorov is like, how many more times do you want him to play the way he does before you just acknowledge that he is one of the upper echelon defensemen in this league? Like I had to argue with people for years about Claude Giroux, and I did not forget that. I'm telling you, I did not forget. I know now everybody goes, I said that would happen. I said you'll be begging for him to stay when he leaves. And a lot of people say, well, I can name 8 other players that are better. Who cares? Who cares? Are they an elite player? If I look at the Flyers today, there's enough talent, top to bottom, healthy to compete for a playoff spot. If he can keep doing what he's doing, I'm in. Again, it's going to take a lot longer of a sample size, but it is very difficult for me to say that those 2 games are not the best that I have seen them play since AV was rocking and rolling with this team, 2.5 years ago? Is it monumentally different, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a small, like we were all saying, right? Like it's only 2 games, small sample size and all that, but there's still a lot of encouraging things to look at. And just because it's only 2 games, you can't still not point at those facts. So we're going to bring, that up. And we're going to also bring up the fact that there's no guarantee it's going to continue because you have Tampa Bay and Florida coming up, and those are really good teams. So that's going to be a test, and it's going to be interesting early because we'll see how the team responds again. That's another aspect of the resiliency that we'll see, right?
I guarantee, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I guarantee that if they lose those games, they will lose it in a different way.
Yeah, they're going to be working. They're going to be trying. It's not like in the seasons past where like you're playing, teams that are upper echelon in the league and
it's
they just
not even
blow you out of the water, right? And then you kind of almost give up on each other.
Can we see?
Yeah,
I actually think it's a little different. I agree with that. There was the give up last year.
Yeah.
I do agree with that. There's no disagreement. But I don't think that's I think it spiraled and got to that point. I don't think they started off as a give up type of team.
It just gets to that scenario where they're just like, okay, this is what it is now, basically.
I think they didn't have the fundamentals to win.
Well, if you look at their defensive structure just in 2 games now compared to what it was in the previous season, night and day, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why a guy like Couturier is such a monumental difference in the lineup because it doesn't matter what coach he plays for. He will be one of the best defensive players in the league. He will make up for every player around him. So, okay, fine. That's the 1%. I talk about this all the time. That's the 1%. Fine. Great. We have 1, maybe 2 of those guys, 3 if you include Carter Hart, which I would include him in that. I think we have 3 guys like that. I think D'Angelo's, I want to talk about him too, but we have 3 guys like that. In my opinion, Provorov, Couturier, and Hart.
Yeah.
And it might end up being TK, but he's not. And again, right now, this is the year you should expect Travis Connectny to do what he's doing. Prior to that, it's actually considered early. And if the team is really bad, not that surprising to me. He doesn't have great numbers. I mean, I see it all the time. Like even Kaprizov. Okay, is Minnesota a bad team?
No,
they actually
Not at all.
They actually had just as much talent under a different coach, different GM, and then brought in all these young guys, started playing better as a team, and boom, Ryan Hartman's the number 1 center. No, he's not. Jack Roslovic in Columbus also not a number 1 center, right? Boone Jenner, not a number 1 center. Torts turned him into a top 6 center. This is what he's going to do with Scott Lawton now. Is probably on his verge to have a career year. And I'll end my diatribe on this, and then we'll get into Joel Farabee and Noah Casey. I want to talk about them next. But he is the perfect example. I bring him up all the time. If you go back to the expansion draft, I think he was 23 years old at the time. Everybody's like, he's obviously the guy taken. Hextall wisely, and he will not get credit for this in retrospective, held on to Scott Lawton, right? Believed in him. He was a borderline NHL player, and now he is potentially the next captain of the Philadelphia Flyers at age 28 years old. Right?
Yeah, I got the only A, too, to start the season, which is very notable.
I thought they were done developing at 24. How did that happen?
It's all linear, Yariv. It's not linear. We always say that, right?
It's not even that. It's just this is a grown man's game. This is not a young man's game. I'm going to start saying on this podcast, counter to everybody else. Sorry, don't agree. It's a grown man's game. It's not a young man's game. In fact, I'd argue that's what I'm hoping that Tortorella will get us to earlier. Is that and let's talk about the next 2 players because I think it's very important that these guys are 22, 23 years old. If you look at the guys who have been definitely in game 2, the forwards that are being used the most, Hayes is, I think, averaging a slightly over Noah Cates between the 2 games, but it's Joel Farabee number 1 and Noah Cates number 2 for ice time in that second game. And obviously heavily used young guys. And I've been talking about, obviously, Farabee from day one. This is a special player. And I think even when I'm seeing from Noah Cates, I know people are talking about top 9. I don't know. I'm seeing top 6 potential the way you don't throw a kid in those positions. Vasili, I'll go to you first on this one, then we'll go to Sam. Sure. What do you think about Farabee? What do you think about Cates? What do you think about their specific performance over the past couple of games? And the fact that that Tortorella spoke about it specifically in his press conference and said, hey, I'm looking for those guys. He is using them more than everyone else. Yes, we have injuries, and I'm sure those numbers will go down a little bit. But Scott Lawton's got the A. He played 13 and a half minutes that game. Farabee played 20. Noah Cates played 20. So
the initial sign really is Tortorella trusts them, because he's not going to be playing anybody on this roster 20 minutes plus unless he has full trust in their abilities. And another aspect of that is they're playing in all situations. Noah Cates on the power play and the PK and getting tons of 5-on-5 minutes. Same thing with Joel Farabee. I mean, I'll start off with Farabee. I thought he's getting better as the games are progressing. Like the first game, I mean, he's
Injury
still in
return.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like
too.
he's still you know, getting his timing back. There's still a level of rust there. Obviously, he didn't really play many preseason games. He didn't get into many scrimmages in the preseason, right? Obviously, due to that injury. So that's a factor for Farabee. But I mean, he looks the same in terms of his positioning. He's always in the right places on the ice, and he's making some nice passes. I'm projecting for Farabee as the games kind of go along here. We see him get even better and better as he gets back into his timing, and then also develops more chemistry with his line mates, right? Because he didn't play much with Cates last season and Lazinski, or Allison, I mean. So, I mean, as they kind of play together more, you're going to see more chemistry there. And with Noah Cates, man, like, I don't think there's really too much you can go off to say that he isn't a bona fide, you know, NHLer at this point. He's showing it every night. He's playing 20 minutes a night at center, which is super impressive considering he isn't a natural center. So to do that in the, you know, in his first, like, it's still not even, he's
crazy.
He still hasn't even played 20 games in the league. He's like at 18 games or something like that. So it's nuts that, you know, in his first cup of coffee in the league, he's already adjusting that center position and doing a good job. I do think it's going to take a little bit more time at the center position for the offense to come out as we saw at the wing position, because he's just, you know, there's more for him to do defensively, more to keep track of, more responsibilities as a center in general. But love what I see. And the thing with Cates that's crazy to me, the thing that's Cates, or with usage. Cates, that is a great or interesting thing for me is just look at his forechecking ability and ability to cause turnovers, man. He is relentless. Like, there was a play in the Vancouver game, the last game, and literally it looks like Vancouver easily is going to be able to break the puck out. Cates is like, nope. And he just straight beelines right for the Vancouver defenseman as soon as his partner passes him the puck. Makes him a little panicked. He gets to stick in there, breaks the puck up, and then the Flyers start a puck possession cycle and get a good shift out of basically nowhere. And there was a lot of times last season where that never would have happened because most of the players weren't forechecking and being aggressive like that. I mean, that's contagious. You see a young guy like that on the team doing that, it makes other players want to play the same way and, you know, play balls to the wall like that and just give their all in every shift. I think with guys like Allison and him, that's, you know, you can establish a real early forecheck and really get in on teams. Lawton as well, because he's very similar on the forecheck. But yeah, Cates forechecking, just his tracking of the puck. His hockey IQ is on another level. What do you think of both of them, Sam?
Farabee hasn't, even with his surgeries, hasn't missed a step at all.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's real strange.
Especially a neck surgery too. Like, it's a crazy surgery.
Well, the thing is, I think he's gotten better, and this is him missing a step.
It's possible,
yeah. Noah Cates, I just think, has been the GOAT since he was born. So, you know, he's the younger one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Farabee,
you mean of Jackson?
Jackson.
I mean, okay. Jackson's great too. I'm not sure what's going on there that he's not getting. I mean, obviously he's up there right now, but that hopefully he gets much more of a better look. But Noah is just phenomenal, and I thought that last season when he came from college, I was like, we're not. I'm like, I'm not going to be seeing this kid in Allentown. Like, I could sit there and say Bobby Brink, I'm going to see him in Allentown. Ronnie Attard, I'm going to obviously see him in Allentown. But I was just like, I looked at Noah Cates and I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to see you.
I'm not convinced that Bobby Brink would play in Allentown either, actually. Not 100%.
I really hope not.
I think that is the right move, but I did look at like the way our team looks right now, his age, and the fact that we don't have players who do what he does, that he could have made the team.
He'd be useful, yeah.
That's all I'm saying. He's like a guy with that skill set. If he was like somewhat ready, again, he was playing college hockey, Hobie Baker nominee. So I kind of include that in there. And he
Should have
didn't
probably
look
won,
at
to
it.
be honest.
Well, he didn't look at a sort in the NHL last year.
No, he looked good. He's making plays.
He was one of our best forwards.
They could definitely have used him on the power play.
Yeah.
With one of the worst power plays in the league last season, and he helped. They could get. To be honest.
But to your point, it's not a Noah Cates thing where it's like they could never like.
Yeah.
You never questioned it for a second. You looked at what he did last year. Look what he did in preseason. You're like, I mean, he's maybe our best player right now. Like, you know what I mean? You're not going to be like, he's outplaying everybody on my team. What do I do? Send him down?
And when I talked to Lappy in August, he was, talking about certain players like he doesn't.
Yeah.
He didn't want to see. He's like, I love Frosty. He calls Morgan Frost Frosty. He's like, I love Frosty. But I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him.
He's ready. Yeah, but he's ready. He's done.
Is his nickname Frosty the Snowman? Do we think, or
I have no idea. I think
it should be, but
I just know that Lappy calls him Frosty.
Okay.
He was just like, Wade Allison, love him, don't want to see him on my ice. Lazinski, same thing, love him, don't want to see him on my ice.
Because they're ready. They're ready. Exactly. They don't need to be there anymore. They already hit that level. It's obvious.
You can see it in their play, 100%.
And this is kind of what I wanted to say about the preparation. That's why Cam York got sent down, dude. You were set a higher bar than the other players. You didn't hit that higher bar. And the problem with that is that you think that you can hit the regular bar everybody else is, but no, they played you top pairing minutes in preseason. They didn't play you where they played Zamula. They played you higher than Zamula. So, like, they're not thinking of you as Zamula. They're thinking of you as a top 4 dude on this team, at least. So that means, like, that's what they – like, the idea of him playing, like, 13, 14 minutes a night is not the worst thing ever in the NHL, but it's not a great idea.
Well, if he can get 25, 26 a night and he's playing all situations in the AHL, especially at the age he's at, 21 years old,
I want to
there's
see
so
him
much to learn.
The AHL. I want to be like, he can't be there anymore. He's too good. Like, McEwen is too good for the Phantoms.
People have to remember, too, like, I just think when you see Cale Makar, you see a lot of these younger dynamic defensemen like Drew Doughty comes in right in his rookie year. Like, there's a few outliers that come in like that, but most of the time, man,
it doesn't happen.
The NHL is a league where defensemen really break in like 23, 24. Like, look at Travis Sanheim. He didn't really break it until about 23. Like, that's what you could expect. Not to say that York might not get called up, and I'm sure we'll see him this season, but it's not out of the ordinary for a 21-year-old to play a full season in the AHL, even if they are a high draft pick.
And here's my thing is that if they didn't bring Cam York down, you were keeping Cam York because of the name.
Yeah.
You were keeping him because of the player.
Correct. Right. That's what I'm saying. I have no disagreements.
And he didn't have a good camp. Like, if he blew the camp out of the water, he would be here. Because it was a merit-based decision,
imagine
right?
that Cizikas goal happened to Cam York several times over. I will say, though, there are players that are immune to it, but it's not good for them, which Ivan Provorov is an example of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But he also blew it out of the water, too.
But, like, I mean, he had that -5 game.
Oh, yeah.
Chicago, remember that?
Yeah,
Publicly embarrassed. Next game, he was fucking amazing. That's what I'm saying. Okay, that's my view of Ivan Provorov as a special, rare athlete that works harder than everybody and does exactly what you need him to do. I don't understand what all the extra. I expect him to be my best friend and have a drink with me after work and like answer all my questions the way I like them. Like, where is that coming from? Who cares? Who cares? That's why there's a captain. That's why there's a person who talks to the media. I don't know. It's just so secondary to me. So let's talk about somebody. I do want to talk about TK a little bit more, but since we're talking about Provorov, let's just get into the pairing themselves.
You want to do, and then you want to do TK after?
Yeah, we'll do TK. We'll do TK afterwards because we're already talking about Provorov. So let's just get right into it. Provorov, in my opinion, I think this is, like I said, I think this is the best he's looked in a very long time, maybe the best ever. In his career, again, Sam, you weren't on here, but I did have a conversation with Provorov in the locker room not too long ago. We talked about this specifically. I told him I thought he was ready, and all that. I saw it in his eyes that he was ready. I think we saw on the ice that the kid is ready. Like, he's 25 years old. This is the age. Now it's go time. Now it's time to be.
Defensemen start hitting their prime,
right? And you look at somebody like D'Angelo, about the same age too, right? Sanheim. These guys are about to, like, they're in their prime right now. D'Angelo specifically, I think definitely has exceeded other people's expectations. He's met mine so far. The minute usage has surprised me because of the amount of PK time to go along with the immense amount of power play time. Crazy that he's leading the team in minutes, but it's working. And they're using it, very intently. I think maybe we'll see those minutes go down a little bit if we can find more balance to that second power play unit. And I think maybe it's a good idea to take his minutes down a little bit, but I love the way that pairing's looking. And I'm not surprised. I've been talking about it all season. Vasili knows, Samantha. I've literally, like, every single time people have been questioning him, like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's been my response the entire time. It's like, oh, is he going to punch somebody in the face? I'm like, again, this is kind of what I'm talking about. This is something that happens here cyclically. We find the worst case scenarios and we talk about them over and over again when there's really, I'll say this on the podcast, history does not repeat itself. It rhymes. It's not the same thing over and over again. It seems like it's the same thing. It's similar. There's similar patterns, but it's not the same thing. And just because you have a Russian defenseman with American hockey player who punched the Russian defenseman, no, actually, I'm sorry, got punched by a Russian goaltender, thank you, doesn't mean that that's happening again. No. But
yeah,
that's all I have to say. But anyway, I don't know who wants to go. Sam, you go next. So you look like you're going to go off. So I'll have the same first.
I might get crucified for this, but I think TDA was a great addition.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been dealing with TDA for the last year now because I followed Carolina for a very specific reason, but I'm still going to follow them. Became a fan. Provy, yeah, I think it's a great pairing. And TDA being used on the penalty kill, I believe it is. That's what he was brought in for. He is a penalty kill specialist. Like, that is what that guy does.
Oh, but you think he's a penalty kill specialist?
That's what he was in Carolina.
Oh, interesting.
That Rod Brindamore used him a lot on the penalty kill.
Interesting.
Okay,
I would imagine
that is interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that, to be honest, but that's awesome.
That's what I literally believe that he was brought in here to do, was to be on the PK.
Well, we know he's brought in here to play the power play, though, right? He's playing top power play minutes, 5 minutes a night. He's actually the only one playing on the power play, but he is being played with Provorov without hesitation.
Well, I kind of wanted to mention something, so I'll jump off your point, Sam, with the PK and D'Angelo, and I think that one thing to really key in on is Bradshaw loves his penalty kills to be very aggressive. Tony D'Angelo's a very aggressive player in his reads and his pinches. That's not a coincidence. They think they can use his aggressiveness there to start offense on the PK. It looks like they're trying to be more offensive on the PK, so I think that's a factor. I'll go into D'Angelo first and kind of round out with Provorov. Just to go off with D'Angelo here. So first off, 3 points in the first 2 games. He's a +4, so that's obviously great. And then I believe, so 3 blocks as well. And then averaging first game 23 minutes, 50 seconds of ice time. Second game 27 minutes. So it just already shows, the coaching staff trusts to play him big minutes, trusts to play him in all situations. But also he's looked great. But just to comment on the chemistry between them, it's only been 2 games. They played only 1 preseason game, handful of practices. They're reading off each other very well on the ice. But what I notice most is D'Angelo really allows Provorov to make more aggressive reads in the defensive zone. And what I mean by that is, if there's a guy in the corner that needs to get boxed out or somebody needs to be physical with, Provorov seems more comfortable making that type of play with D'Angelo next to him than he did with it being Justin Braun or another defenseman. And I think it's just because he knows that D'Angelo, if there comes a situation where the puck squirts out or something goes wrong, I think there's more faith D'Angelo will be in the right position. Also more faith that D'Angelo is obviously going to be a lot better with the puck. So Provorov doesn't have to always be that guy who is, okay, I got to break it out. I got to push the puck up the ice because D'Angelo gives another option. And then just to dive into Provorov, I think that's kind of where his game gets unlocked, that D'Angelo just allows more options for Provorov. They both like to have the puck. They both had the puck a lot. They're sharing it. Provorov's making certain rushes. D'Angelo's making certain rushes. They're making good reads off of each other. There's going to be mistakes. It's a top defense pairing in the league. There's no top defense pairing that doesn't make mistakes. They play against, the best players every single night, but they look good, and it really looks like the chemistry is going to continue as they go along. And I think we're going to see a more physical Provorov and a guy that is a lot quicker in terms of boxing guys out than we saw last year, which was a big part of his game when he was succeeding. A couple of years before, these past couple seasons that have been a little down in terms of performance. And then just to go through Provorov's stat line, 22 minutes first game, 23 minutes the second game. Crazy to me that D'Angelo's getting more ice time than him. I never would have thought that would happen.
Well, it's because of the power play.
Yeah, because of the power play, exactly. And then Provorov.
D'Angelo had what? I'm sorry to cut you off, but D'Angelo, I think, had almost 5 minutes of power play time last game.
Yeah, which is nuts. Almost like the whole time.
Yeah.
For the defenseman there, Provorov 9 hits. In 2 games, which is incredible. 11 blocks.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
11 blocks in 2 games. And then he 3 points. Or no, not 3 points. 3 points, so 3 assists, and then +5. So he's literally been on the ice for the team scored 8 goals. He's been on the ice for 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's crazy. They've been a good pair. It's only up from here. I love what I've seen. I think they're both gonna have a really big year.
When TDA was brought in and Torts was brought in, obviously they were brought in. Torts was brought in before TDA. Obviously, TDA is coming from Carolina. We all know who Tortorella is. I had a lot of people from Carolina being like, "Oh, I can't wait to see the relationship between TDA and Torts." Well, I think Torts trusts him a little bit to have him on the ice for nearly half the game.
100%.
I think they're a match made in heaven. I don't
both
think it was
very
ever a problem.
fierce, competitive guys, right? I just think it's just people trying to key into, Tortorella has a big personality. He's gonna clash with everybody. Remember when he first got hired? Oh, he's gonna hate Connectny. Look how good.
They said he's also gonna hate Fletcher, and he obviously doesn't hate Fletcher at all. Which it's my opinion. It's very obvious that he does not actually. It seems to me like he's actually very understanding. He consistently tells them, "Hey, you guys do it for you know what I mean." Like there is a complete professional side to Tortorella, which if you look at his reputation, you would think it's not that he's not this guy, and he's the exact opposite. I just. Even look at what he's doing with the young guys. Yes, a lot of our veterans are injured, right? Like I'm sure if Couturier was here, Couturier would be playing 21 minutes a night, maybe 22. Be honest with you, like without a doubt. But he doesn't have to play. Like he could play Scott Lawton over Noah Cates. He's not doing that. You know what I mean? He's playing young guys.
Develop guys. He even said right at the end of the first game, I could put guys that are more veteran, like a Kevin Hayes, Scott Lawton, out to defend the lead. But we need to put these young guys in these situations so we can see how they react and to see if we can trust them here. And that's a part of it, obviously.
But does that sound like a guy who isn't interested? Like think about his reputation coming in here and how foreign that is from what he's actually doing.
For sure.
So I'm taking the same route with TD.
I just think people didn't really understand what he did in Columbus. You got to understand Columbus wasn't good the first year he was there. It was kind of the same process as this.
Yeah.
And I think people kind of forget that, right? Because it was Columbus. Nobody really pays attention to Columbus.
They're still living off of what he did.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Culture-wise, structure-wise, it's very similar.
No doubt about it.
I just think people they look at the Rangers and they were really competitive. They look at Tampa, they're really competitive, and he kind of did it in Tampa when he first got there as well. So he has a track record of getting things back on the rails, and that's obviously
absolutely
what the Flyers looked for and why they hired him.
Yeah. So let's talk about the next guy who he's kind of we brought it up earlier, Travis Connectny. Let's be honest. I mean, he's looked like a complete leader on this team. We talked about it earlier. I mentioned a marginal increase in points, about 20%, completely realistic. He's on track to do that, as we can see right now. He's scoring goals. He's dangerous all the time. And he's of age of, hitting that next level. So all those people were kind of saying, well, what is Travis Connectny, blah, 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 yada, 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 yada. I look at majority of players in the league. You look at majority of talented players in the league, about 25 years old. They become old enough to handle this type of weight. He's finally there. It's finally time. He is kind of showing up. And I think the balance of everybody playing well around him is allowing him to excel. I talk about it all the time. If everybody is playing well and one guy is doing poorly, like Hodgson, for instance, in a game where everybody was playing super intense. And the shifts I did see from Hayden Hodgson, it wasn't really a question. I did not see an aggressive player at all. I'm like, whoa, this guy's not playing his game. And I think that's what they saw. So that's an instance where you can go, okay, this guy sticks out. But when the whole team is underachieving, what's the outlier here? Now you see the team is doing well. Again, he's young like everybody else. I don't know. I think it's exactly where I expected him to be right now. No better actually than what I expected from him. If he can go a level above this, then I'll be surprised. In my opinion, he was already a 70-point player. I'm interested to see if he can become a 90-point player. Like that's the level I'm waiting to see if he can do. And I think that would require a healthy lineup. Like that would require Sean Couturier or something like that. What do you guys think about TK? Vasili, I don't know if you want to go first.
Yeah, sure. So for Connectny, I mean, we already kind of talked about, so we want to beat a dead horse. I mean, he's looked great. First off, you can tell he's probably in the best shape he's ever been in. A lot of the people around the team have said that. He just looks like he came into camp in tremendous shape, which obviously plays a factor. You're in good shape. You're going to look quicker on the ice. In my opinion, he looks the fastest I've ever seen him out there. He's buzzing all over the ice. It's interesting. I like the statement Torts made in the last press conference about the similarities between him and Cam Atkinson, and that they're both smaller guys. And he's starting to use Travis on the penalty kill as well. Like Atkinson is known for being a good penalty killer, and there's a lot of similarities between them. And I think with the anticipation that he has, he's really good at making those reads. And you saw it kind of pay off in the second game there with the wonderful bank pass that he made to Scott Lawton for that breakaway goal. And I mean, just to pump his tires a little bit, the hockey IQ there is off the charts. Like you could go straight up the middle. Decides to lay and feather a pass in off the left boards, bank it in as Lawton kind of skates right into it with momentum and then rips one. So that's great. And then just the willingness to shoot the puck. I mean, I think we kind of saw that kind of fade from his game as he lost confidence over the last 2 seasons. As that could happen for any player when a team has 2 seasons as bad as the Flyers just did. It's hard to be confident when you're on a bad team. But we can definitely see that Connectny's a confident player. When he's a confident player, he's a much better player and is playing to his strengths and his abilities. I also think it's worth noting that he said he worked with the Flyers analytics team to kind of look at areas of the ice where he's had success more. And if you look at where he's going and those areas, it seems like he's really making sure that he's around the hash marks, front of the net, behind the net. Those are all the prime scoring areas in the NHL. Just based off looking where most goals are created. So that's something to note too. And then just shooting the puck more in general. Like he looks like he's more willing to do that. And I know I'm interested to see if it continues, right? Like he's had fast starts before. So the test for me is just the consistency, because with what's happened with Connectny in the past is he'll have 5-6 games where he looks great and then drop off. But on a team like this right now that the depth is tested, he's going to have to be doing it every single night if they're going to have success. So I'm interested to see how it goes along from here. What about you, Sam?
Especially with just going off that point, especially with Tippett being out right now.
Yeah.
Definitely kind of reminds me of Tippett. Like he'll have like those 5, 6, 7 great games. And I've watched Owen for a couple of years, especially with him being in the A and being in the division, same division as the Phantoms. Tippett will have 5, 6, 7 great games where he's scoring and doing everything right, and then he drops off for 10, and then he picks back up, and then he drops back off. So TK kind of reminds me of that, but hopefully this is just the start of TK just revving his engine and just
asserting himself.
Helping us. But yeah, no, I think TK looked great. 2 goals in the first game. I was just like, is the TV broadcaster saying that right? And I was just like, but I was like, hey, TK's back. So good. I want him to be annoying, and I want him to start getting on everybody's nerves.
Did you guys think the third goal he scored against Vancouver was reminiscent of Briere? Because I thought that was a Briere type goal where excuse me, the team fucks up, loses it, turnover in front of the net, and then he just sneaks in and pots one. I don't know. I just feel reminds me of Danny Briere.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Briere still has it. I watched Danny Briere play at the Checking for Charity tournament. That team was down 6-2 in the first. And then it came back and they ended up like 9-6. And it was all because Danny Briere.
That's actually amazing.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to there, Vasili, is like really good players who can score goals will find that weird space on the
find
ice.
the soft spots, right? And that's
Yeah.
what Briere could do, and I think Connectny's figuring it out.
Yeah, like John Tavares is fantastic at that at the NHL level. Like
Yeah.
you look at Tavares and there's nothing about his game that wows you, but then he's always in the right place in the right time. He's
same with Mark Stone.
Exactly. Yeah. Even Sean Couturier, but I think it's a requirement of being actually, you know, he's great at it. Patrick Kane, that guy just disappears. Like he disappears on the ice, shows up somewhere, and you're like,
God, soft spots.
Yeah, man. And there, So I think that's probably what we're seeing, like that he's getting better at that. You know, to your point, the kind of camouflaging in with the play a little bit, which is very difficult to do. But I think I'm loving what we're seeing from TK in general at this point. Like, it's awesome. And let's talk about the next big player, and then we'll get into our Phantoms wrap here. Carter Hart, some not great goals. I do think that there's kind of an excuse for both the goals last. I would say 3 out of the 4 goals that he's given up are not egregious. I think the first goal he gave up for the season wasn't the best. He was at least moving. Outside of that, which you can accrue to some bad luck, he's looked exceptional. Nothing surprising. I don't think anything's changed from this year to last year. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he changed anything in his process. I don't think he's playing better than he did a year before. Maybe I know he had one injury riddled year. I think that does play a role into things. But as far as he's still fantastic. And if the team can play good defense around him and limit some of this nonsense that he is even seeing, I would expect his numbers to finish top 5 in the league, kind of where he is right now. It really matters if the team in front of him does well. But I see these like lists of top goalies, and I see all these other. I'm like, there's not a single goalie in that list that I would trade for Carter Hart. So I don't know what these lists are for. I think they're just like a statistical stack. But some of the guys were lower on, like John Gibson is much better than a lot of goalies in the NHL. He's not given credit for that. Like some of the best goalies in the league are not identified as.
Well, when you play on a bad team, your stats suffer, and then you're left out of the conversation.
It is the life of a goalie. Mm-hmm. Like Shesterkin is phenomenal.
Well, your team dictates a lot of what's happening around you, and that's
Well, he's phenomenal. I'm not in any way putting down Shesterkin. He is clearly played like the best goalie in the league outside of Vasilevsky last year. But the reality is he's on a good team. Mm-hmm. He's not on a garbage team. I agree that he's elite, but like those numbers would have taken a little bit of a dip if his team sucked, right? He wouldn't have had the same legendary stats if his team wasn't good, right? It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand. Your defense has to help you, right?
Well, how could Carter Hart ever look good under the way this team played over the past couple of years? I mean that honestly. Like how would you ever expect him? Even the games where he looks phenomenal, he still gave up 3 goals at that game.
Well,
he's getting lit up from left to right. He's got it. It's like, okay,
there's only so much you can do as a goalie, right? Yeah. When it becomes overwhelming.
Sorry, and it was just it was just that the team was relying on him, and I'm sorry, you can't rely on a 22-year-old kid,
especially every night.
Like these are kids that are playing. Mm-hmm.
But
you guys have had Carter Hart in that team since he was 19.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sam, but teams that rely on their goalies play good team defense. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the reason they rely on their goalie is because they play around their goalie, like the Canadians, and why they made it to the finals. They played around Carey Price. The Flyers were not playing around Carter Hart. They were just playing hockey horribly, and he had to stand up and make big saves.
Standing on his head.
They didn't play for him, to your point. Like, no. And I don't mean like they don't care about it. That's not what we're saying. It's like they didn't play based around Carter Hart's game. They're just trying to figure out how to stop the puck from being in their zone. Do you see it? Like they were always a step behind on the play. Now they're dictating the play. They give up a goal and they attack relentlessly immediately afterwards. Like that, they're dictating the play. That's what makes you a good team. You don't have to have talent to do that. Not the most amount of talent, at least. You have to have just enough, which is kind of where we are right now. with injuries. Just enough talent to not be the bottom of the league. Our injuries
Just
are
enough
crazy.
talent to not get Connor Bedard.
Yes, which doesn't
Bittersweet.
look like it. Doesn't look like we're in that sweepstakes this year. Hey, you never know. Things can
It's only
fall
2 games, man.
for
It's only
sure.
2 games. So.
Exactly. Things can completely fall off the
They could
rails.
go. They could. Yeah.
Look, I can 100% agree with that. If I had to bet money, I would not bet money in that direction at all at this point. This is why. Okay, I am somebody who, if you look at me, I graduated at the bottom of my high school class. Like I barely graduated high school. And the first year of college, I had like a 4.0, by the way. So this is nothing to do. Like I am the king of this stuff of being bare minimum like this team was. That was me like my whole teenage life. So what can I get by on? And I know the steps to get out of that. I know the process of success. And all the steps are here. All the recipe is here with Torts. He knows what he's doing. Whether it will fully work or not, we'll see. But the process is correct. I don't know. We'll see about the role, but the process itself is correct. And we know it is. We know it is. You can tell. That's why the fans are. I've never heard a coach get a larger cheer than anybody on the team.
That's hilarious. You know what I thought was hilarious too, just to point out, this is a random thought, but I just thought it was really, really funny that they had Tortorella as the dude who's mic'd up in the first game. Usually it's a player, and they give it to Tortorella.
He's the selling point.
I know. I just thought it's hilarious.
And no, you're absolutely right.
Just to jump off with the Carter Hart stuff. I thought he was okay. He made some big saves when he needed to. That's what you need from your goalie, right? When you're in those key situations and there's a big save to be made, you want him to make the stop in that situation. He did that for the Flyers. I mean, can you really be mad at a goalie who gave up 2 goals both games? If your goalie's giving up 2 goals every game, you're in a good position to win every night, right? So he played good. The preseason not playing, that has an effect for a goalie. A goalie needs reps. Goalie needs work.
I think that's the only position it really does.
Yeah.
At least to a high degree.
Well, my thing is like if you saw him early in games, and this is my theory, just somebody who's played net his whole life pretty much. If you don't have the right reps, your angling's a little off sometimes. The way you will actually anticipate can kind of be lacking if you haven't had those reps. Obviously, he's a professional, so I mean he's going to be on that level in general, but. I just think on some of those goals that you saw, especially the first goal in the Devils game, and even the second goal against Vancouver, even though he gets bumped a little bit, like his angle's just slightly off. But as he gets into more game reps, you're going to see it get better, and his sight lines are going to get back to normal there. He looked good, man. Like athleticism's there. And he's just his calm, cool, collected self. And that's when Carter Hart is his best, when his movements are efficient and he's on his positioning. And the angles will get better. And then some of those like short side type goals we saw going in won't go in as we go along. I'm interested to just see if the structure around him stays there. Like if it does, like you're saying, I think he's going to have a really good statistical year. If not, I mean, we'll see it drop off a bit. So we'll see how that plays into it, right? As you're only as good when you're a goalie, you're only as good as your defense plays in front of you. That's always been my opinion. You could be Marty Brodeur, but if your defense is running around like a chicken with their head cut off, it doesn't fucking matter.
They make it look terrible.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's dependent on Tortorella and the system, and we'll see kind of if the team continues to help him out.
Yeah. And
what do you think of Hart, Sam? Sorry.
Well, I just wanted to add one thing, Sam. It's just like if you have a really bad goalie and you have a really good team and that goalie is a weakness, it will also be exploited and it will make your defense worse, Sorry, Sam, go ahead, please.
No, it's fine. I think Carter Hart obviously looks the same from last year. No big differences. I've always liked Hart. I've never had an issue with him, but I think this team actually wants to play for him. And play in front of him. I don't believe, from what I saw, I don't believe that he's going to be in net tomorrow night against Tampa. I think they're throwing Sandstrom in, which I don't think is a good idea because
I don't agree.
Not ready. Sandstrom is not ready for a Tampa team.
I go with Sam. Like I think they should give Hart Tampa, give Florida give Sandstrom Florida.
I just feel like Tampa's too strong of a team. Sandstrom is just coming off of an injury.
Yeah.
It's
My
not
thing is, I think Tampa's fired up. They lost 6-2 last game to Pittsburgh. They lost their opener. They've only won one game. They lost their opener like 5-1 or something to the Rangers, or 3-1, something like that. So they're going to be fired up. I would give it to Hart. But
And don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't have faith in Sandy, because I have all the faith in the world in Sandy. That's why he is there. That is why he is not in Allentown right now. And that was why Harrison is down in Allentown. But I don't think he is ready for a team like Tampa. Tampa has, they're out for blood now.
What about Florida?
Florida's Florida.
I mean, they were the number one team in the league last year.
They're really good too.
Season.
Yeah, they're really good too. I just think, they've already got a couple wins under this belt to start the season. I just hesitate putting any team like when Tampa's losing like that a couple games, they're going to be like, I don't expect the Flyers to win, to be honest, the next game just because of that, but we'll see what happens.
Can I say a caveat to what you're both saying?
Sure.
One, I believe, I would assume that Hart has better numbers against Florida than he does Tampa Bay.
Possible, yeah.
Part of it. The other thing is there's no book on Sandstrom. So Tampa Bay can be as prepared as they want. They're not going to be very prepared for Sandstrom. He's a talented goaltender. He's not as refined as Carter Hart. And I'm not saying you guys didn't say that, but he is the type of guy where maybe he steals one. That's how I kind of see it. But I can see the point that you guys are making, but I could also see it the other way. I see Hart playing 2 games in a row, thinking, oh, okay, well, he's our guy. Maybe, it's time.
Either way, they're both going to play either, so you got to give Sandstrom one of them. So.
Yeah, I think to me it's negligible. I guess more my response.
And like you just said, Yuri, like there's not a book on Sandstrom in the NHL yet.
Both, and that would be both teams. In fairness, not just Tampa Bay. It would be Florida or Tampa Bay.
And I mean, in the AHL, I could tell you what teams he's good against and what teams he would be bad.
But this team
book for Sandstrom in the AHL, but there's not a book in the NHL. I mean, maybe Torts is going to throw him in, and then if he sees that he's struggling, he's going to throw Hart in. You don't know. So
we'll see what happens.
I think that's I agree, but I think if that happens, you made the wrong call. You know what I mean? If you have to put in the other goal, you made the wrong call. But it's fine. It's fine. We'll see. I don't have a problem with either one. I understand why you guys say what you say. Especially looking at Florida, maybe on paper, they're not as strong as they were last year. But you could say the same thing about Tampa Bay, maybe too. And they've struggled this year. So I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. Let's. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's also me having a soft spot for Sandstrom. So.
Oh, hey, I get it. I like him.
I think he's going to be a good backup.
What were they saying about him in the standard video with the intros? Best looking guy on the team. Oh, no. They say one of the best looking guys on the team. They don't say the best. They say one of the best looking guys on the team, which I find funny. Because everybody had like a different nickname or whatever for the pregame call outs.
Oh, I love those nicknames, man. It's always so much fun.
Yeah. Sandstrom with his big, beautiful eyes, which I guarantee Samantha knows about. All right, let's get into the next one. Let's just go Phantoms update. Sam, let's just go to you. How are they looking so far through 2 games? Obviously, standing wise, do you have any expectations of the Phantoms? What should people watch out for?
So when I was at training camp 2-3 weeks ago at this point, because just preface this by I was a season ticket holder before I became a writer. So I still have my season tickets, obviously. And they let season ticket holders in for training camp right in the beginning. And I've never heard Lappy yell a day in my life. That man can yell. Pretty sure he damaged his vocal cords during that training camp. And he was pulling guys to the side saying, look, this is what you got to do. But yeah, every missed shot on net, 5 push-ups. Every guy.
Oh, I love that.
5 push-ups. We were noticing that. We were looking over and I was like, oh, he missed a shot on net. Gotta go.
When you miss the net, those scoring opportunities go back the other way. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Sorry to cut you off, Sam. I have a story when I played. Our coach did the same thing. There was a couple players on our team that would miss the net constantly. He said, "You missed the net this game. You're not playing the next game." happened. They missed the net. They didn't play the next game. Rest of the season, they never missed the net ever again.
But I think they're looking much stronger than last year. Last year was just
Awful.
Yeah.
god awful. Yariv, I think I texted you asking you how do I write articles on a team that just absolutely is deplorable.
That's how I felt last year with the Flyers.
Gritting your teeth. Yeah.
I was just doing player profile after player profile because I didn't know what to
Yeah,
write.
exactly. Yeah. The future.
Yes. But so far they're looking like a stronger team. The defense is definitely better at boxing out around Grosnick and Ayrson so far. And even Pat Nagel. Pat played in the preseason, who I love Pat. He's phenomenal. So yeah, they're doing a better job at that. Standings wise, I think that they could possibly make a run for the playoffs. They tried to last year, and then just with the AHL going on point percentage, don't want to be that historian. They just couldn't push past Bridgeport, which is the Islanders AHL team. And yeah, I mean, I think that this team could definitely make a run for playoffs. They were outworked by Hershey yesterday, like completely outworked. They were making efforts towards the end of the game, but towards the end of the game, it was just they were generating in that third, and then in that third, they just were just like, it's done. Like they were just Hershey was outworking them at every step of the way, and they can't let that happen.
Yeah. That was a lot of the energy I got from that team last year, just always falling short. I do think about the amount of injuries that this team has and the fact that the Phantoms are missing some of their key players already. Just even with Jackson Cates, probably would have been a top guy there for sure. Even there's a situation with Zamula, and obviously they sent Attard back, but now PDO is obviously going to be pulled up. It's going to keep happening to them, right?
Yeah. And that's tough, right? When you're a minor team.
Well, even there, I mean, I think Grosnick's going to be a really good goalie for them in the AHL level, without a doubt, right? He was an all-star.
Wasn't he top?
MVP.
Wasn't he like top 5 in stats or something?
He was MVP. He was top goalie last year.
He was the number one goalie in the AHL.
Yeah, that's not too shabby.
And
Yariv had a goals against average of 2.0 and a save percentage of 0.933.
Yeah, and look, he is not an amazing goalie. He's not. He's good at the AHL level. He's consistent. When he plays in front of a good team, he can make saves. And we have Ersan behind him, who is very talented. So it's actually a pretty good setup for AHL situation.
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident about the net situation down there. I think we have a lot of young guys. Like, what do you expect from somebody like Wyatt Wiley this year?
Wyatt, obviously he didn't have a blowout camp. That's why he's in Allentown. I love Wyatt. We all know this.
Right-handed defenseman.
He is, and he's great. He definitely looks a lot better than last year. I think this could definitely be a good year for him. I told his mom, I was like, Shelly, he looks phenomenal. Like, he looks a lot better than he did last season. You can tell he put the work in.
Shout out to Shelly Wiley.
Yes. Hey, Shelly. But I was like, look, like, he looks great. And she's just like, thank you. That really means a lot. So I definitely think Wyatt could have a breakout year. Elliot Dinoye, that guy is just, I mean, I know Jamie said, he looked overwhelmed at camp, but I think just being in that camp environment with Tortorella,
it's tough for any young guy. Yeah,
it's going to overwhelm
now. Right?
Yeah,
is it
two goals in
back to back.
If he can be one of our main goal scorers next to Tyson Forrester, I see no issues.
Yeah. Well, we get a lot of those guys, right? Like Isaac, I would imagine Isaac Ratcliffe is going to be a top line winger by the end of the season. I don't know what it is. Every year he starts off on the fourth line and then finishes in the top 6. Can you explain that to me, Sam? Why every single year he has to start over? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know if he's just not putting the work in over the summer and he just expects to be primed when he comes to camp, but you can't do that. You have to put the work in over the summer in order to be primed for camp.
That might be true. It's so weird to me though. It's like it's happened every season that he starts off in the bottom left wing, And then by the end, he's playing top 6 forward. He's one
He
of their.
might just be.
He was
you
the
know
best
what?
player at the end of
Yeah,
last
but
year.
it's
He can hit.
yeah.
That's not the problem. He can hit. He can use his size.
Yeah, but that's more
Yeah,
than
but just
what he
play the
does.
game, Isaac.
Yeah, but
He
looked
might just
good
be one of
last
those
year.
guys that starts off slow, right? Like you
Yeah.
need a couple
That's
weeks to
not
get your
good.
legs under you. Yeah, it's not the best sign. I mean, for the Phantoms, I'm excited just because they got a lot of young guys. This like Forrester, Wisdom, Desnoyers. Like there's a lot
I
of
think-
younger guys
well,
that I think will make their mark, right?
Yeah, well, I think for me, it's more like I would like push him hard if I were
Yeah.
them. Like I don't think that he's like developed or anything. That's kind of what I don't understand. Like I'm seeing good things and I'm not seeing them use him in that kind of way, or at least forcing it. Maybe they shouldn't, but I don't know. I guess I'm a little thrown off because he was so close last year. And then, he's kind of a later cut, and then now he's fourth line left wing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and Elliot Denoyer is third line center, and like, again, this is the reason why I think people are frustrated with Lappy, where I'm like, okay, like I get that that Cal O'Reilly can play top line center. I get it, but like, there's really not a big benefit to us doing that.
My thing is that they have a longer training camp for the NHL. Obviously, Lappy has only gotten a week of training camp with these guys.
Fair, yeah.
He hasn't seen all the chemistry, so
That's hard to assess. Yeah.
He's not screwing, but he's trying to put these lines together based off what he sees in these games, and I think that definitely hurts a little bit in the beginning. Now, I'd like to see a defensive pairing of Wiley and York. I saw it last year, and it was great.
Well, even
I would love to see it
why
this
would
year.
you play York with Belpedio? They're literally the same size. And they bring a similar skill set.
I mean, just maybe because of the veteran presence. I know Lappy's very big on veteran presence. So
yeah, no, that might be it. Maybe it's just hey, these are my two best defensemen right now. I don't know. I guess I just look at some of the roster decisions and I go, okay, that's fine. Like I don't love them. Again, I don't believe in like that Lappy's like a terrible coach or anything like that. I'm a little confused by the by the Ratcliffe stuff.
Well, last week I didn't put the quote out there, but I was listening back to the voice recordings I took of being in the press conference, and Lappy was saying, he's like, these boys remind me of my boys. He's like, I have two boys, 20 and 18. He's like, so maybe if I tell these guys the opposite of what I want them to do, they'll do it.
Just like your children, right?
Well, that's a fair way to look at it. I mean, I think for the Phantoms, it'll be interesting. Like, it's always better when the Phantoms are competitive and having a good season. So
they
I think
be good this year.
I think this is a year that where they're going to be, a competitive team.
They at least need to be fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I'm tired of seeing this team with a complete losing record. That they shouldn't be like.
They got a lot of young
AHL.
talent. They got a lot of young talent.
They are
rise.
Sorry, Vasili. They are a lot more physical than they were last year. Last year, they would just let teams just mow right over them. But this year, they are so much more physical. You have Zayd Wisdom, who just wants to fight every single minute. You have Isaac Ratcliffe, who just uses his size. That's one good positive thing I can say about Isaac is he does use his 6'8" body. You have Garrett Wilson. We had Zach McEwen, which I'm surprised Zach didn't fight anybody.
He was the goal. But it sounds like he was the power forward. He was like a goal scoring machine down there.
Yeah,
like he was just carrying the play.
Yeah. And like I said, you have Garrett Wilson. We have Jordy Bellerive, who came from the Penguins organization. He's a scrappy guy. So like we have a lot more physicality to our team now.
More character guys, would you say, Sam?
What was that?
More character guys, would you say?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's just going to be more personality on the team. Like I said, I've known most of these guys for the last 3 seasons. I've known Zayd Wisdom. I've known Tyson Forrester, Garrett Wilson. Like I've known these guys. I know their personalities. I know how they are on the ice. So, yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. So we were gonna do a preview. I think I'm gonna skip over that because we're getting close to 2 hours. So I'm gonna end. Well, first I'll do a shout out to Jim Steaks. They're still not open yet, but shout out to Jim Steaks when they're open. I will let you guys know. And don't forget about their cheesesteaks. The last segment we do is the comments. So we go through like the comments of our previous video, and we address the comments there. So I'm gonna do that one, then we'll wrap up here. Though this has been an awesome episode. I keep talking about this topic over and over again, and that is the problem. All right, cool. Here we go. So I'll go to the comments here. Close this nonsense. This is from our last video. Again, what the series that we're doing, right? We just go through the comments and we'll address them here. Looking at this one, top comment, and this one was much appreciated. I love that interview story with Provorov. I'm with you, Yariv. Best and most important D-man on this team, hands down. I take him over any other D-man on our team or any defensive prospect in our system. I still have hopes for him that he can be the best, be at least a solid top pair D-man, if not a true number one. Yeah, my attitude's exactly. And Sam, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but had kind of like a heart to heart with Provorov in the locker room. I could just see it on him. It's time. It's time for him.
I think he wants to prove everybody wrong too, just based off last season. Like there's a chip on his shoulder for sure.
100%. And I brought this up before. I don't know if anybody here likes Kobe Bryant. But I love Kobe Bryant.
100%.
Yeah. And if you listen to Kobe Bryant, you listen to that man talk, and imagine you are the most in shape player on your team, obviously, that you are clearly the most conditioned team, and your team is losing, you're being blamed for it, and you're like, well, these guys aren't even upset, and they're not working as hard as me. Why are you guys talking to me? That's where I think his attitude came from, which, again, I didn't love his response. I don't care that much about it. But, again, you look at that personality, like you look at Kobe Bryant, he's screaming at his he won't pass them the ball. He'll straight up tell them at practice. There's video of him talking about this. He said, I will not pass you the ball if you do not work hard at practice. Like, imagine Provorov said that publicly. Like, I will not pass you the puck if you don't practice hard. So I'm just saying, I get the attitude. That's all I'm saying. And I expect the rest of the players to catch up with him. I think that's what's happening, to be honest with you. I think some are already kind of there, but I think it's what's going to happen, at least physically, to catch up with him. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree, definitely. I just think a lot of players with the Tortorella training camp in general came in probably in better shape than they have been in previous years. And then you have a guy like Provorov who's always pushing the pace. It can only hopefully make guys around him do the same as the season continues to go along.
For sure. Anything to add, Sam?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Cool. Next comment. Did we pass over Caulfield to get York, Og? Yeah, I mean, I have a whole video on it if you guys want to check on the channel. Caulfield versus York. My thoughts still have not changed.
Too early to tell.
It's also like you don't have to be obsessed with the other player.
Yeah,
like, you
but apples and oranges too.
Yeah,
right?
You can just be happy you got the top defensive prospect.
Yeah, and also you got to factor in. Hey man, Cole Caulfield got sent to the AHL and played there for a large portion of last season. Came up and did great. So there's no telling that won't happen for Cam York as well. Yeah,
I'm sure Cole Caulfield was very happy about it. I'm sure he didn't complain at all. And there were no words of negativity that came out of his mouth. I'm sure.
Man!
I'm sure this guy scored 70 goals.
Yariv, you should have seen the headlines on TSN and the Montreal media. They're fucking losing their mind.
This is my point.
Listen, Cole Caulfield is getting me points on both my fantasy leagues, so he can.
He's a hell of a prospect. A hell of a prospect. Yeah. I personally, I want to make it very clear. I would have drafted him.
Yeah,
I wouldn't. I
would have too. But I could see why the Flyers went York at the time. Benefits to both, right?
I like the Caulfield. I like those guys, so I would have
dynamism in his game, man. The
Plus, I like guys who are 5'7". I'm 5'7". All right, next comment. If players are getting hurt, working out in practice, maybe their bodies just can't handle the NHL. Trainers and doctors are probably most of player injury problems. I mean, I thought Sam actually had a really good point, about asking the staff versus the player. I don't know what the normal process is, but I do question that now after you brought that up, Sam. So
Players always gonna want to play even if they're hurt.
yeah,
So that's
I'm here for.
yeah. I also think it's been a weird time with injuries. It's hard to explain. I've never seen this many.
I really think the shortened seasons the last 2 years play a factor. If you look around the league,
Definitely,
there's
100%.
tons of teams who are going through so many injuries. Like all the hockey in a condensed period, man, it plays an effect on your body. Like
Yeah.
it's a tough game, rough sport.
Well, actually, and to that point, I was talking to Tanner on the same day. I don't remember if I talked about this on here, but I asked him kind of like what he did in the offseason was the biggest difference. And he thought about it for a minute. He's like, nothing. He's like, I didn't work out. He's like, I took the summer off. I think I took most of the summer off. He's like, this is the first time I had an actual off season. I'm like, okay, so you're smart about it. You just focused on recovery. I was like, well, Torts takes recovery really seriously. He's like, yeah. He's like, so again, I know a lot of people don't understand about Torts. I can tell they think he's like punishing players. And he's like everything's a math problem for that guy. So I expect that he can appreciate that. And I think a lot of the guys who got injured quickly didn't take time off, including Joel Farabee. You're competitive, you're racing. Again, just want to listen to Kobe. That guy would wake up at 4:30 a.m. and practice so he could do 2 extra practices a day, where the average player could only fit in 2. He would fit in 4. Yeah, he would do 4 days. Yeah. He also would get injured.
Tanner's great.
Yeah.
That I think he could sense I was very nervous during my interview with him, and he tried to
Who, Tanner?
Yeah, he talked to me like a normal person.
If anybody here has a chance to meet Tanner Lazinski, he is like the nicest guy ever. Super down to earth, and he was incredibly nice.
He walked into the press room and he saw me. He knows me from Lehigh, and I was like, "Hi, Tanner."
He doesn't act like a professional athlete at all. Like it seemed to me like he was more nervous talking to me than I was talking to him. I actually was. This is the first time I was in the Flyers locker room and I was not nervous at all. It was very strange. Like at all. Yeah, guys, for those of you who have not done it, it is intimidating. I mean, it's straight
very
up
intimidating.
Oh yeah, you walk into the locker room.
I'm interested to see. I'm supposed to go to games. I think the 2nd against the Leafs and then the 5th against Ottawa. So if I get into the locker room,
we gotta send you to all the Canada stuff, Vasili. That's the key. We gotta start getting you everywhere.
Just get me in Edmonton and Vancouver.
Yeah, you ready to go to the cold parts of your country, the real ones, the boonies up in Edmonton?
Don't send me to Winnipeg, man. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, exactly. Find the coldest place in Canada, send you there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next comment here. I believe 3A, 2A, 1C again from Eric. Pro V, Lawton, Cam. I mean, I think that's
that's fair. Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think towards this point, he said he will not be naming a captain this year, which I thought was interesting.
I didn't think they would, to be honest.
I don't fully buy that. They might not publicly state it. The one thing I have a problem with all of this, though, is that Sean Couturier is not here. And I get that you put Provorov, Lawton, Cam. Totally agree. All 3 of those guys are worthy in the conversation. You've heard me mention it here. But the reality is that Sean Couturier, I don't know his personality as well as the players in that room, but he is the engine behind this team. You cannot deny that he is that guy here. You cannot deny it. Vasili, I know if I asked you to pull up the statistics with him playing and not playing, they are astronomical. They're so different. So you have to consider that from a leadership standpoint. This team follows him, and the guy he's a coach's dream. Like, people can say whatever they want. Sean Couturier is a guy like Tortorella, coach's dream.
Yeah, I think Couturier would probably be the captain for me, just like what you said. Like in the lineup last season, they're 500 with him. Out of the lineup, they're one of the 2 worst teams in the league.
And he was injured.
Yeah. And then I mean, just for the captain thing, like I figured, to be honest, just coming off the terrible season and then having Giroux, be such an icon, I just didn't think. I think they were gonna kind of make it like a gap year, right, before they name someone, more of a transition.
Considering
period.
It's like almost a curse to be a Flyers captain, probably safe to do that. Giroux's the only one who broke the curse, to be honest with you. Nobody talks
Yeah, I
about
didn't
it.
get a
But if you look at all,
injury.
if you look at all of the Flyers captains prior to that, they all had serious injuries or Desjardins ran from it. He gave it away.
Jason
after 1 year.
Smith, did he have a serious injury? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, shoulders. Both shoulders
Oh,
went out on
yeah.
him. Remember that? Chris Pronger.
Damn, it really is bad
Dude,
fucking luck. Mike Richards too.
Mike Richards.
technically.
I mean,
Lindros, obviously.
it's just so I said it's bad luck.
Uh,
For what the weight of that captaincy is just.
oh, I love
crushing.
this last
Tim Kerr.
comment.
Tim Kerr was captain too, right?
Yeah.
Thought he was. Oh yeah, the last comment, the bot.
How about that?
How about that? 10
After the first win.
How about that? Cheers.
That's a great way to end.
That's a great way to end the podcast. How about that? All right, Sam, what do you got going on? Anything people should follow up on? Your podcast, your writing, whatever.
So yeah, obviously still write for you guys. I was in the process of writing one about Lappy, Jason Smith, and Riley Armstrong, but then I realized Lappy has a really lengthy history, and I got lazy, and I'll finish it. So yeah, I have a podcast on Old City Sports Network, American Beauties, an AHL podcast, and I'm doing just a bunch of AHL coverage for them because why not? I have nothing better to do. And yeah, just follow me on Twitter at Samantha Wismer. I'll be at the Phantoms games this week, and obviously I live with those guys. They might as well just give me a spot in the locker room.
Of course. You say that to them. I might as well have a stall right here,
The coverage will be way better. Might as well.
I love it.
It's funny.
Well,
those guys see me they're like, hey Sam.
Hey, they love the coverage. There's no doubt about it. They all want to make a name for themselves. And we thank you, Sam. So thank you so much for coming on. Vasili, what do you got going on?
I'll probably have an article out like on the weekend, most likely. I just had an article out on Sunday, kind of just going over the past two games, and then the whole resiliency bit. I went on a whole tangent on here. So if you like what you heard and you want to hear more about that, go read the article on flyersnittygritty.com. Shameless plug for you all. Other than that, though,
place to do it, dude. This is the place you would shamelessly plug. All right. Well, it's awesome. Well, again, Sam, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please like, subscribe, give us a review on anything, on iTunes, on Spotify, on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up, whatever. Share our stuff out. All that is extremely helpful to us. So anything you can do is always helpful. Again, follow me at Wolok. I don't ever ask anybody to do that, but I'm barely on Twitter at this point. So come here to hear what I have to say. But yeah, we'll be doing more videos, obviously. And again, it's huge that you guys are listening. Now things are actually not boring and terrible. And we hope that you guys felt prepared for this season. Cause I feel like if you did listen to this podcast, you had a pretty reasonable expectation of what was going to happen. And I feel like we did not let you guys down this offseason. I truly feel like that. Like if you walked in listening to this podcast, you really knew who were the good players, who was going to make it. Why the coaches are doing what they're doing. I think we did a pretty good job of analyzing that this year. It's pretty hard to know what's going on. We're not insiders. I don't pretend to be an insider. Yeah. Quite frankly, I think about it all the time. I don't want to be an insider. I don't want it because it's more impressive to be an outside and to know what you're doing 10 miles away without an inside voice. It's not that hard. I don't need an insider. I say it all the time. You only have a few options, and I know what they are, right? And that's kind of this is what I talk about. It's like that's what this is. That's what I said. That's how I do this podcast, right? This is why I asked Vasili, because I could tell he's the same level weird than I am. And I'm like, literally, I think I want to be a GM. You guys can make fun of me for that, but that's the way we analyze it.
It's a fun way to look at hockey, man. So hope you guys enjoy.
Better that than pretending like we can predict the future. I'll tell you that one, because that one's annoying. Anyway, thank you again for listening. We love you guys. And thank you again, Sam. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, awesome. No problem.
All right. We love you all. And remember, always stay gritty.